Eddy does the Internet of Capitalism show. At this time, learning mode, continuing with the learning game development with Godot engine and their official documentation over there that they provide. Clear the throat. Cool. Now, I came through the learning materials to this point, your first 2D game. Now, day 2, I think, or day 3, I've covered on this learning course. On my side, I jumped right into your first 3D game, and then I went back to the basics and went through learning the GDscript for Godot engine scripting, programming, the whole course, day 5, part 1 and 2, or day 5 and day 6, something like that. Very good web app, interactive tool to learn GD scripting. But anyway, I came to the official documentation for Godot version 4.3 to learn more about the details, how the projects work, actually how they're organized, structured, how the references work from the user interface and game design in the engine editor, using engine editor, and also how is that referenced in the scripting aspect. This is the last from the last session result, and I left myself in the project, in the code, a to-do to expand on this lessons for this project, implement a game mode selection, because this project covered from here step-by-step chapter, creating first script, listening to player input and using signals. So in the last lesson, using signals, the implementation of player input was deprecated, but I left the code implementation for player input, so I got it in the code, and I will elaborate more on that to enable for the same project to put cherry on top of this course, these few lessons, that this course has also implementation of game mode selection, because it's possible to run these examples for the aforementioned lesson, listening to player input and moving this character. For that example, here in the script, I left in the comments the implementation of the function that allows player input. And towards the end of the lessons, in the last signal, it was instructed to replace the code existing with something else to complete the last lesson, and that I didn't do. I actually left the code with comments in for the future reference and for past reference, so I can check what I've done, what I've learned, and how it was implemented, because it's the basic of the basics. Where to go to here, from here? I'm a little bit now, I'm itching to maybe jump over this thing, our first 2D game. And I said on the last stream at the end, I'll just go through this, but do it my way, maybe elaborate more. and I did this way before. What they did here for this, and the also first 3D game tutorial, they provided the project with the assets. The assets like the characters, images, to get game animated, like the character player character, image and animation, and the enemies, the mobs, MOBs. And now that's probably just to skip the part of the art design, art direction of the game development, to stick to the bare, to stick to the Godot editor on Godot editor subject. But there are few things in there. I'd guess best to cover them also all from the beginning. I would like maybe if they would also cover maybe the file format, asset formats, how maybe even cover the way to how to create graphics with code without importing pre-made assets. Because in the bare Godot, I would like to have also like a sprite editor or bitmap editor, something like that. And I guess to clarify, I will quit the project list and do it as they suggest. Get the assets running, download the assets and go through the tutorial. Again, I'm using the Windows magnifier so you can see better in the video. Hopefully provide legibility, make text readable down all the way down to mobiles, but I don't bet on that. Okay, the game is called Dodge the Creeps. Your character must move and avoid the enemies for as long as possible. You will learn to create a complete 2D game with the Godot editor. Structure a simple game project. Move the player character and change its sprite. That's cool. Spawn random enemies. Count the score. You'll find another series where you create a similar game, but in 3D. We recommend you start with this one though. Okay, good. You know what? Why start with 2D? If you're new to the game development or unfamiliar with Godot, we recommend starting with 2D games. This will allow you to become comfortable with both before tackling 3D games, which tend to be more complicated. You can find a completed version of this project there. Prerequisites, step by step, intended for beginners. Getting started, done that. I don't need to complete demo. I'm experienced programmer this far. And you can download, prepare some game assets you'll need to download so we can jump straight to the code. creep to the assets. Got that? We are all on the same page with this. Chat, what you say? Nothing. Setting up content, setting up project, creating the player scene, coding the players, creating the enemy, the main game scene, heads up display, finishing up, next, zoom out. Where is my downloads? Dodge the creeps, where is it? Dodge the creeps. Dodge the creeps, unzip, extract to 2D, cut, and go to my projects, learning 4.3 version, and paste it here. Check the tutorial. I don't want to skip, but I just want to clear my head buffer from that procedure, copy, extract, and park provided assets into the project directory right away. In this short first part, we'll set up and organize the project, launch Godot and create new project. When creating new project, you only need to choose a valid project path. You can leave the other default settings. Download assets. The archive contains the images, sounds you'll be using to make the game. Extract the archive and move the art and fonts directory into your projects directory. So this is, for example, good example. I will then rearrange this to become next thing, which is the assets. Well, actually no, delete. I'll jump where is learning, so learning assets. So what I've downloaded are the assets actually. Cool. There's the creeps assets. What do we have there? Should I zoom in? Let's say zoom in. Here you see there is the extracted folder. We got art, wave file, game over, song track, enemy flying, sprites, player, and fonts. Solonium regular. Cool. And what it said was the getcha project ready. Meaning, so actually we don't use, as I understand so far, Godot can't work with the external files outside the project path. So I'll use File Explorer to add into the project directory assets and fonts, or assets and what it said. What's the add? Art and fonts, yeah. So I guess I'll create this Dodge Creeps 2D. Dodge Creeps 2D tutorial. Create folder. I'll copy this. just so I don't lose it. And I'll go to learning. Select current folder, but create folder enabled. So my folder for the project should now contain in the learning okay, so the editor created, as I said, GDscript tutorial. And if I make this smaller, maybe even side by side, let's see. So now I will bring the assets from GDscript zip, select these into and copy into the project directory, and left click in the blank and right click, bring me the right menu and paste. What is the okay? Editor did run import really quickly, just blinked over here. Means we're ready to roll. Keep rolling. Zoom back in. I have found a way how to keep this zoomed and that engine is still usable even with magnification on. Maybe I'll just try to narrow down the screen about this much, yeah. When creating a new project, you only need to choose a valid project path. You can leave the other default settings. Project folder should look like this. This game is designed for portrait mode, so we need to adjust size of the game window. Click on the project settings to open the project settings window. In the left column, open the display window tab, general display window tab, project settings. They're set viewport width 480, 720. Okay, 480, 720. Project settings. Viewport, the display window, viewport width 480, 720. Anything else? Viewport width, window size. Also under the stretch option, set the set mode to canvas items and aspect ratio to keep. Stretch options, stretch, aspect ratio keep. This ensures that the game scales consistently on different sized screen. Anything else? Project setting, window, mode, aspect, stretch, cool. Organizing the project. Did it say yourmama.com? And no instruction to close organizing the project. So they kind of assume we close the project settings properties. Stretch mode, canvas items. Aspect ratio, keep, pull, close. What's going on? What is going on? Yeah, here. Organizing the project in this project. In this project we'll make 3 independent scenes, player, MOB and head-up display, which we will combine into the game's main scene. In a larger project, it might be useful to create folders to hold the various scenes and their scripts. But for this relatively small game, you can save your scenes and scripts in the project's root folder identified by resource path in the file system. So resource path here. I need to enable my left to right click highlighter and also find mouse, highlight mouse tool. Squeaky table. File system, you can see your project folders in the file system dock in the lower left corner. Where is that? Where is the lower left corner? On the screen, okay. With the project in place, we are ready to design the player scene in the next lesson. Okay, here I'm checking the comments on this lesson about static dynamic type code used in the documentation. Next. I think that my programming skill so far is up to that challenge, that I can figure it out, what's going on, and do the proper approach technique. Creating the, well, I guess the documentation, here's a note that the page is up to date to Godot 4.3, so I guess that clears the previous discussion in the comments over there. Creating the player scene. With the project settings in place, we can start working on the player controlled character. The first scene will define the player object. One of the benefits of creating a separate player scene is that we can test it separately even before we created other parts of game. But not just that. Splash of water to the throat. I'm required to talk a lot. Also read my habit over here while I'm rolling. My coffee goes better with tobacco. Creating player scene, node structure, player scene is that we can test separately. Well, the benefit of going even through this tutorial is exercise, exercise, exercise. Structure of the node. Node structure. To begin, we need to choose a root node for the player object. As a general rule, a scene's root node should reflect the object desired functionality. Scene's root node, okay. As a general rule, a scene's root node should reflect... Okay, so good. So the node type should reflect the scene use case. With the object, what the object is. Click the other node button and add an area 2D node to the scene. Area through the 2D node. Area 2D node. A scene's root node should reflect the object's desired functionality. I'll be right back. I just take a glance at my cat, what she's doing. Well, it wasn't the cat, it was my daughter. I've got two ladies, girls, hanging around at home. So, node structure. Just to get this sunk into the head. To begin, we need to choose a root node for the player object. As a general rule, a scene's root node should reflect the object's desired functionality. What the object is. Click the other node and add an area 2D node to the scene. Godot will display a warning icon next to the node in the scene tree. You can ignore it for now. We will address it later. With area 2D, we can detect objects that overlap or run into the player. Change the node's name to player by double-clicking on it. Now that we've set the scene's root node, we can add additional nodes to give it more functionality. Cool. What's that? Is that double or triple cool? Oh, I didn't count. You tell me. Yeah, you. Oh, even you. I care a lot. Yeah, I remember. I think I remember in the previous stream. I remember that in the morning I had an idea what to add to my intro. So I'll say it out loud just so I can don't forget it until I write it down right now. So it should say, I'm your host Molly Little Eddie who loves you. Yes, even you. Something in that, something like that. That should be it. Let me write that down. Sounds good. Sounds cool. Molly Little Eddie. Molly Little Eddie that loves you. Loves you all, yes, even you. You. Okay, I guess. Loves you even you. Something like that. Something I picked up from a Shellac song. Miner. If I was a miner, I would save 1,000,000 souls, even you. What needs to happen now? I need to censor my camera a little bit with this pixel art filter. So I can enjoy my tobacco and you can let the kids continue watching. I don't have a pixel art filter for the audio, so you still hear what I say. And your kids too. And I'm about to get down on this project. So move just the window a little bit here. And to point out something is the new project brings up the empty new undetermined state. It's showing unsaved new opened scene. So it's empty viewport. Scene here, node inspector shows a scene. But until I save it, it's almost nothing as it is opened and empty. But if I start adding something, I better save it and make it a thing by giving it a name as a save file. And it will be saved here in the file system as a file extension with file extension tscn. And I'm supposed to add another node. You know what? What if I hit S? Save as? No, it just saved the project. If I add another node and say area, so it's area 2D. Make sure you can see also the button. Create a region of 2D space that detects other collisions subject 2D entering or exiting it. Cool. There's the warning they mentioned. Node configuration warning. This node has no shape, so it cannot collide or interact with other objects. Consider adding a collision shape 2D or collision polygon 2D as a child to define its shape. So let's have a look. This scene or a node doesn't have any script. So how can we determine the state of our or mine project here? If I hit now, Ctrl S for saving, and now, since as soon as I've added an element to a scene, now it automatically brings up the file save as dialog, but I will not save it because I'll be suggested to change its name to player, like it said a moment ago in the text. Why am I saying that? Because the new project hitting save saves nothing, and the scene shown here is like a void scene, just a blank viewport, so that the engine is already showing something which is, but it's not any defined resource. It doesn't have any reference to it in the project in general. As soon as I added a node in the scene, it becomes a unsaved file, unsaved scene, and then that the asterisk shows asterisk and the state is unsaved, just like usual. So that's something we would expect, how the user interface would work for desktop applications, document editing desktop applications that still work with the save file framework mechanism functionality. Well, since it's still clear in my mind what was said in the tutorial, I'm supposed to change this to player. Do I need to save it? Change the node name to player. We want to make sure we don't actually, okay, before we add any children to player node, we want to make sure we don't accidentally move or resize them by clicking on them. Select the node and click the icon on the right of the lock. So here's the lock on the toolbar for the viewport, view mode, and this says its tooltip says groups the selected node with its children. This causes the parent to be selected when any children node is clicked. In 2D and 3D view. Okay, I understand. Should I elaborate on that thought? On that? Come on, stay in place. Okay, save the scene, click scene save. Save process. For this project, we'll be following the Godot naming conventions. GDscript classes nodes use Pascal case, variables and functions use snake case, and constants use all caps. Cool. Ignoring the C# section sprite animation. Click on the player node. Well, let's complete this. I named it player. Ctrl S to save. This file save dialog will automatically suggest the name player like the root node. And here it is here.